You're not my best friend anymore. How do you like that?
I love it.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm getting myself a new best friend.
Wake up, bitch. You're my new best friend.
Really? What? Are we going to the zoo?
Well, yay there, belterlowda. It's the man from Mars here, broadcasting straight to your news feeds via the Ringgate network, that is YouTube. And I'm here to discuss Season 5, Episode 6 of The Expanse. A little late, as usual, I know. Although, I am a wizard, so I guess it was probably purposeful. I'm aware that Episode 7's already out, as this video's been uploaded. As soon as I've uploaded this video, I'm gonna get the fuck straight on that, don't you worry. So let's get straight into the review. Episode 6 kicks off with a direct answer to my last review with a badass Sarala scene, and Agadashlu kills it. She's watching the news feed of the damage in New York and tries to leave Arjun another message. Well spotted to those who caught the pop culture references on her contact list. We've got Doctor Who, Vivian Banks and Gregor Clegane, all fictional characters who have been recast in their roles, just like Arjun was. Very nice. I'm not sure if D. Stevens and B. Connor are also references, so feel free to let me know if they are. Her message is interrupted by David Pastor, Minister of Transportation, who announces that he is the new Secretary General. You can tell already that he's a bit of a weak dude, you know, a nice guy, not ready to be thrust into the highest position of power on Earth after the sudden catastrophes, but he didn't decline the seat, so, you know, there must be something to him integrity-wise. He almost falls over when approaching her desk due to the fact that he has never left Earth before and is not used to the gravity. That's just an example of how unprepared he really is. He gives her a bit of small talk and tries to connect with her emotionally, and you know, you can't blame him in these trying times. Christian reveals that her daughter and grandkids are safe and are on the way to Luna, yay! And he asks about Arjun like an idiot, but immediately realises he has overstepped, and from her distress he promises to do what he can to locate him. See, he is a nice guy, he's just gonna try his best. He's gonna try his very, very best. The guard tells Pastor that his meeting is ready, and he gets real with Christian for a moment. He tells her about his past and why he got into politics in the first place, and implies that he is well out of his league. He tells her about, he tells her that Earth was only able to survive any further damage thanks to her, and invites her to join his provisional cabinet. She accepts, because of course she will, and asks for a moment before joining him. And then we get one of my personal favourite Avasarala scenes we've had in the whole show. So she was able to keep her composure while talking with Pastor, but as soon as he leaves, her distress bubbles up again. You know, she struggles to put a necklace on, and she wipes away her tears and tries to compose herself. And this, to me, was a direct reference to her book counterpart, whose MO, modus operandi, is to, quote, put on the mask, unquote, aka assume the role of the cold hard bitch who runs the show. Such great visual storytelling, simple but great. And I imagine show watchers, you know, assume this is what she was doing anyway without having the direct reference, whereas book readers like myself get to go, yay, she put on the mask. And when ready, she leaves the room, and that's her only scene this episode, you know, but one scene is better than no scene, am I right? So I'm not really sure what Christian's official role is now in government, you know, at least before she agreed to join the cabinet. You know, in the books, she is undersecretary after Ehrenreich is forced to retire, and she doesn't lose to Nancy Gower like she did in the show, but instead helps her win the election and beats Sorrento Gillis. And then when Nancy Gower dies in the attacks, which I'm pretty sure she does in the book as well, Christian takes over temporarily, and that's what I assumed was going to happen this season. But maybe Christian is going to have to, you know, take up her more classic role of ruling from behind the curtains. Anyway, a good opening scene to set up where the UN will be going in the next 4 episodes / seasons. And as I said before, Agadashlu killed this scene. You know, she was so visibly distraught, and I'm not just talking simple tears here, guys. Like just the way she's shaking like a leaf, and she just comes off so broken and unstable, and unlike anything we've seen of her before. Not the actress has done it many a time, but the character, I mean. And the death and / disappearance of a loved one will do that to you. So yeah, Shora's performance made this my 5th favourite scene of the episode. Next up is an Amos and Peaches scene. And is it just me, or does it feel like Amos has had the most screen time / scenes this season so far? Now don't get me wrong, he is a fan favourite of both book and show, but this season has felt very strongly like the Amos show, featuring Peaches. This isn't a complaint, just merely an observation. I love Amos, I love him, and I love when a show puts side characters at the forefront and focus on their growth. The transition from Luna to Earth is visualized by a shot of them both panning from Luna over to mainland USA. And if you look at the damage, I mean, first of all, where is Florida? Where the fuck's Florida? Florida looks like it's fucking gone, and the whole of the eastern seaboard looks ravaged, as well as the southern side above the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the coastlines look well different, as the sea has risen and flooded whole areas of land, but bear in mind, I'm comparing this to the modern day map and not what Earth looks like already in the Expanse, pre-rock drop, so the coastlines would have already been different. There is also a great plume of smoke, black smoke, coming from Mordor. Obviously, I'm joking, it's coming from when the second rock hit the US. Anyway, we get an establishing shot of what I will assume is still Virginia. It could be Carolina, because that's where the pit is set in the books, but I'm pretty sure it was Virginia in the show. So I'm pretty sure they are still roaming around Virginia. Maybe they've made their way to Carolina, who knows. The ground is covered with snow and or ash, and whole sections of forest have just been obliterated by the force of the explosion, and there is a smoking city on the horizon. The camera keeps panning left until we see a huge area of trees seemingly untouched and nestled in an open flat section that could either be a road or an airstrip or just simply an open area is an emergency response station, which is good to see humans coming together to help each other in this time of need. There's tents and supplies and survivors gathering for or to aid. And at the tree line, Amos and Peaches check the place out. So Peaches is still very sick, you know, from trying to use her mods while they were still blocked, and of course she has the busted hand too. Amos says they can probably find help at the aid station, but Peaches points out that the place is policed and it's not worth the risk of going back to prison. Amos casually says there is no prison, so they'll probably just shoot her. Classic Amos line. He also says that their only real option is to try and make it to Baltimore, as he knows people there. Now that is a fucking mission, you know. It's not like it's not going like coast to coast, but you know, it's one state over, but that's still on foot. A fucking mission. They will have to cut through the Conservancy zone in order to stay undetected. Clarissa reassures Amos, who will make the journey, and they set off into the trees. On Tycho, Holden and his new crew are testing out the Rosie's reactor after assumedly fixing it off screen, which is a good example of when to cut something out, because I don't need to see how they fixed it, just know that they did, and get on with the show. Laveau asks permission to reboot the system on the lower deck and says, "Aye, Captain," when granted. Holden checks his new crew out, still uncomfortable on the matter, and these days it's getting harder and harder to be the trusting guy he's known to be. Suddenly, Monica, classic, Monica Stewart is climbing up onto the bridge and asks where to stow her gear. Bull says, "No fucking way," and Holden is like, "This is a military operation." She points out that if not for her and her iRecorder augmentation, they wouldn't even have a shot at catching the Zemaya, and that she has a story to write. She says they'll have to drag her off the ship if they don't want her there, and Bull says, "You got it," and just starts trying to guide her out. She pulls away and admits that why, you know, she'd rather be on the Rossi than Tycho is because out of fear of another possible kidnapping, as there still could be more of Marco's goons on Tycho. Bull tries to warn/scare her off by saying that when they go into battle, the ride's going to get tough, and asks if she's ever been in high-G maneuvers. Straight away, she's like, "Yep, on this ship, bitch, when we went through the ring first and survived." I swear Holden is trying to keep back a smile there, because Monica definitely won that round against hard-ass Mr. Bull. Shorter's climatic score kicks in as the Rocinante blasts off from Tycho. Holden walks with Monica for a moment and tells her to keep a vac suit at the ready. She'll be needing it soon. Ooh, next episode, hopefully. He goes into his office and tells the ship to authorise guest access to the ship for Monica. And I said I keep saying all the time. I said in my last video, I said it in this video. You can pause the show anytime there's a terminal on screen. And you'll see a shitload of detail, and we've got it at least twice this episode already. So we see the list of permissions. Holden, being captain, of course, has access to everything. But as the list shifts to guests, we see that Monica will only have access to water/food and galley services, messages and communications, the gym and medbay, as well as sensor relay readouts and celestial navigation library. I assume that's where the 3D map comes up and you get to have a look around this solar system. I doubt that will come up again like it would in most shows. I just think it's details for the fine combers like me. Holden sees that he has an unread message from Naomi. Oh my god, he's finally got the message, which is the one she started typing out at the end of episode 1. I suppose he's been busy, or maybe she only sent it to his office terminal, and that's why he hasn't seen it yet. The subject of the message, as we saw before, is if something goes wrong, and once again we cut away before we get to read the bastard. After the credits, we get to catch up with the Screaming Firehawk as it floats around the vacuum. Suddenly, the Belter ship that attacked it appears and deploys its docking bridge. 3 Belters make their way across the bridge, and one guy uses some kind of crowbar/spanner combo tool to start opening the Razorback's door. He gets it open barely a foot before Bobby sticks a hand out and fucking fires her arm cannon, you know, just obliterating the guy's face, just mush. Absolutely brutal kill, wicked. She pushes the door open and lets the other 2 just shoot at her because her Martian power armor is unfazed by such weak tea. While she distracts the Belters, Alex, who has snuck out of the Razorback another way, jumps from ship to ship. Bobby blows away another Belter and pushes his body off into the vacuum, and I'm assuming she did that with the first guy, otherwise he just kind of disappeared. She opens fire on the 3rd guy, but he manages to get back into his ship, which starts to retract the bridge and take off. So Bobby jumps back into the doorway of the Razorback and just goes straight full fucking Steve Rogers/Peter Parker, stopping the bridge by holding onto it, like just between the Razorback and the bridge. Martian power suits can electronically stiffen and hold itself in place, and although I don't know if she actually used it in this particular moment. Alex plants a grenade on the inside of the enemy ship's drive cone. Bobby can't hold it for long though. We can see a strain meter in a heads-up display. Alex jumps back across as she lets go, and we get a nice shot of the Razorback spinning around as Alex floats towards it. It seems like his vac suit doesn't have thrusters because he starts it looks like he starts panicking a little bit that he's going to miss, but then it flips around just in time for him to land on it. And he uses his mag boots and gloves to climb towards Bobby, pulls him in, just as the Belter ship is turning and preparing to fire on them. They get inside the door, shut it, and Alex tells the ship to activate an emergency startup, and the Razorback takes off, and Alex is just thrown right to the ground while Bobby holds on. The enemy ship fires up his drive cone and sets off the grenade, which in a chain reaction sets off the ship's torpedoes, and the whole ship is wiped out in seconds. Alex screams, "Suck on that, motherfuckers!" and Bobby woohoos. This is my 4th favourite scene of the episode, just a really short but fun action scene where we get to see Bobby and Alex work together to kick ass. That first kill from Bobby, though, has to go down with one of the best kills in the whole show so far. That was amazing. That's at least 2 of the best kills of the show in 2 consecutive episodes. How good is that? We cut to the Free Navy Command Fleet burning through the vacuum. Alongside the Peller and the Belter ships, there is now 2 more Martian ships, most likely definitely the 2 we saw in the Barkeith exchange. In the bridge, Marco is losing his shit and making a scene. This is most likely right after we saw them last episode. He points out that instead of destroying the grand symbol of inner Belter unity, as well as half of Tycho, the Rocinante is instead on its way to intercept the Zermaya, which is carrying the protomolecule sample. At first, I thought he meant that Tycho was a symbol of unity, because it kind of is, but he meant the Rocinante, which also definitely is. Anyway, Sin accepts the blame for letting Naomi get the better of him. Marco says she should never have been here in the first place, implying it's Philip's fault. Philip apologises, and we see an idea form on Marco's smug cunt face. He flamboyantly turns around and says, "Space her. Stop apologising and correct your error." They protest, to which Marco points out her crimes, betraying them, aiding their enemies, and trying to kill him. Sin acknowledges this and simply says, "It's Naomi. AKA, it's our friend, Philip's mother, Marco's baby mama, an unwilling captive aboard a ship crewed by mass murderers who also tried to just blow up her home and her lover." A brief shouting match ensues, and Sin cuts them all off by shouting, "Do it yourself," to Marco, stunning everyone in the room. Those who weren't paying attention in the bridge certainly are now. Sin asks if Naomi has to die, then Marco can do it. Sin says if Naomi has to die, then Marco can do it himself. He won't let Philip be a part of it. And then, fuck yeah, he walks up to Marco, straight up to him, man, sizes him up and offers him out. He says, "Maybe I finally got old enough," implying that Marco could maybe take him on in a fight, but definitely couldn't used to. Keep in mind, Marco is an elected leader, and he and Sin are old friends, so hence, Marco's not just going to throw him out of an airlock for such insubordination. After a brief stand, Marco turns to Philip and tries to turn the situation into a lesson, asking him what would he do if the choice was his. Philip asks him to spare Naomi's life. Marco tries to embarrass him, announcing that his son has a kind heart. Sin, the fucking bad man, is still waiting there for an answer from Marco, who claims to have more important things to do. Classic sign of a pussy, if you ask me. Sin walks out and Philip follows him. Carol, who has been watching closely, asks Marco if he would have gone through with it. He says, "What do you think?" And I think he means no. no, I wouldn't have, but I was testing my son and it kind of went awry. She says that if he ever does want it done, to ask her instead. And Carol gives me another reason to say, fuck you, Carol. I'm, of course, hating on the character, not the actress. She's great. In the elevator, Philip apologises to Sin, who gently snaps at him. After a moment, Sin has calmed down from angry to sad. He apologises too. Philip is really anxious, having never seen his father and a man who I can only imagine to be, you know, another father figure, like a close uncle to him, almost come to blows. Sin remarks that it wouldn't have been the first time. This is a great Philip moment because we can see the confusion he's dealing with. It's something everyone can relate to, I think. That moment of maturity by shattering of illusions, you know, like when you see your mom and dad argue after years of assuming their relationship was the epitome of stability, or yeah, something like that. Philip storms into the brig and unmutes Naomi's cell. He tells her she deserves to die for what she did, which makes Naomi smile. She says she knows her people are safe or he wouldn't be angry. Philip questions her use of my people, that she doesn't even think of... it's a funny little ironic turn, is it? Philip questions her use of my people, not your people. That she doesn't even think of their family as her own anymore, which is, you know, the narrow thought process of a confused and sheltered childhood. Why would she? She has been gone for at least a decade and has made a new family after years of trying to stay alone. She admits that he is right and that he'll never understand how much she regrets that. Philip points out that she wouldn't have gotten close enough to Marco to kill him, that she would have died instead. So he did see the knife, so they did know that that's what she came there to do and know, you know, what she was up to. I mean, I guess so. I'm a little bit confused on that. Like, you know, I thought that's what he meant by just saved your life, but then she thought about, you know, the Augusta Camara code being put on the roster. I don't know, I'm a bit confused about that. Anyway, she says she knows that whether she succeeded or not, it would have been the last thing she ever did, and that it would have been worth it. Killing Marco is the only thing left she can do to help Philip. And Philip is straight up bewildered at the idea of such self-sacrifice. He tries to defend his father, calling him a visionary and that no one has ever dreamed as big as him, never mind fulfilled it, and that he took the belt back for the inners. Naomi cuts in that Marco has made him a murderer. He put blood on his hands just like he did her, that he ended millions of innocent, ordinary lives and is yet to feel the price for it. Which is true. Philip has no real concept of guilt since his father is this, you know, great untouchable visionary Marco in Aros. Philip claims Marco made him a fighter and that he loves him. Naomi says Marco loves only himself and that he would let Philip die for him, but he would not die for Philip. And that's all about the realism and family drama Philip can take. So he mutes her and walks away. So this was my second favourite scene of the episode. I loved that Sin stands up to Marco and adds a further dynamic and tension to the three Navy characters. It kind of reminds me of those scenes, like say in Game of Thrones Season 1, where characters who had no POV in the book got extra time, extra scenes to expand on their character, like Robert's War Stories or Cersei trying to shape Joffrey into a leader. I love seeing Philip develop a further understanding of the world around him. Bear in mind, I'm not sure how old he is in the show, but in the books he had literally just turned 15 when he stole the Martian stealth tech, and I think that was a year before the rocks dropped, so he's about 16 in the books. And his whole life has, you know, it's been a narrative manipulated by Marco, and the cracks are starting to show. Back on Earth, Amos and Peaches, it's the Amos and Peaches show, are on their journey. Clarissa comments, the forest is still beautiful, and it is a beautiful looking place. Amos claims to have never known there were so many trees in the world, and Peaches gives him a short history lesson about the forest, this particular forest being one of the first reforestation trials of North America, hinting that Earth fucked itself over regarding the whole tree situation. She asks if he ever came up here on a field trip, and bless Amos for not being mopey or snappy about her lack of understanding of his childhood and how privileged she had it. Clarissa opens up about her family's involvement in the reforestation. Her grandfather helped fund this particular era, and her father kept it up after he died. I like this because I'm pretty sure it's the first, I think it's the first we've heard of Jules Pierre in like 2 seasons, right? Like since he got arrested. Amos asks if there was something in it for him. Oh no, I didn't. It might have been in the book or was it the show when Avasarala said she threw him in a hole and then threw away the hole or something like that. Anyway, Amos asks if there was something in it for him, assuming Jules Pierre was just an asshole and there was nothing good or human about him, which is certainly not true, to which Clarissa replies, no, I think Dad just liked trees. If you remember in Season 2, I think Episode 1 of Season 2, I believe, Jules Pierre placed a flower at the tree in his garden, which has turned into a sort of memoriam for Julie. So yeah, I'd say he likes trees enough to you know, Keep the reforestation program going. Anyway, Peaches stumbles in pain at as the last of the mod blockers is making her muscles cramp. Amos strays ahead and finds a dead body, oh no, and begins to strip it while Peaches rests. He starts talking casually about her dad again, as he does, so Amos, just stripping a dead body and chatting amiably. He asks her if her dad is dead, and she says she doesn't know. After giving him a lesson on Schrodinger's cat, she finds half a chocolate bar in the pocket of the dead guy's jacket. Yes, get in. What a fucking treasure they've just found. Amos wrapped the jacket around her and she found the chocolate. She tries to share with Amos, but Amos knows she needs it more. He starts stripping the dead dude's boots, and Peaches asks about his family. He says he might have a dad somewhere and that his mom died young. He tells her about Lydia and that she died recently, and he says that there are ways you can live a good life without being a good person. She offers him the rest of the candy and won't take no for an answer. Friends! Later on their journey, Clarissa is chatting away about the moon and how it used to be a symbol of humanity's dreams to reach it, and then eventually it became trivial, only to become impossible to reach again. Amos says he's pretty sure that's the sun, but he gets her point. And then Amos looks right into the camera, right into my eyes, and says, yeah, that's right, bitch. We didn't miss it out. We just held it off for an episode, Don't go on like you know shit, because you'll just embarrass yourself. They come across a guy sitting by a fire and approach with caution. He tells them he has nothing to rob and invites them to join him and warm up. He notices Clarissa's jacket and says, nice coat, and tries to make it seem like a random compliment. But Amos knows. Amos always fucking knows this shit. It's the same as, back in the Blue Falcon in Season 1. As soon as people start walking, he knew it was about to kick off, and, he knows it now. The guy obviously recognises the jacket and where it came from, and most likely killed the guy who last wore it. Or, just, in all fairness, walked past the dead body and didn't want to take it for himself. Anyway, Amos changes the subject and asks if he has heard anything about Baltimore. The guy replies that they'd be better off coming with him. The coast is flooded and the cities are on the verge of killing each other. Clarissa coughs and the guy comments that she doesn't look too good and offers them a drink. And Amos is like, fuck this shit. He can't prove it, but it's pretty obvious that this guy killed the bloke they found, noticed she was weak and offered a drink that was almost definitely poisoned. I mean, even if he's wrong, it ain't worth the risk. The guy recommends avoiding a fenced-off house where a guy is threatening to shoot any trespassers. By nightfall, they are still walking and Amos hides them to make sure the guy isn't following. Clarissa reckons he was harmless, but Amos teaches her that civilization keeps people civil, that people become savages pretty fast when civilization fails. See, they are teaching each other things, how cute. He uses his lessons learned from the churn growing up to survive then and survive now. Crime in Baltimore was so severe that every couple of years the police would have a sudden and massive crackdown, and depending on who made it out alive or unincarcerated, the hierarchy would change. People are tribal and the tribes just got smaller. Amos and Peaches are a tribe of 2. After a while they realise they aren't being followed, and Amos says they should walk in the direction of the crazy person threatening to shoot people. So that was the second of Amos and Peaches seen this episode, and I'm loving it. I'm loving their story, their adventure, their road trip together, and watching their friendship grow, how they teach each other and care for each other. It's very entertaining to watch. Our next scene finds us aboard Drummer's fleet, as the atmosphere is now tense, unlike how it was in episode 1 when they were enjoying their company and how things were going. Now they're on their way to meet the devil, led by a woman who wants to piss on his grave. After having seemingly made love, Oksana and Joseph are sharing their concerns for their beloved captain. And just in case you thought they were having an affair, by the way, they're not. The main crew of drummers are all married to her in what's called a ketubah, or a ketubah. Bertold, Joseph, Oksana, Michio Drummer, and I think Serge too, are all married to each other. It actually hasn't actually been stated aloud, but using what we know from the books and what we've seen so far, I'm assuming this is correct. Anyway, Oksana and Joseph are discussing their worry for what the future holds, and especially regarding Kamina, whose losses are still fresh and has been known to act on her emotions at times, but not always, but at times. They want to make sure she does not do anything rash, and although Joseph believes she will not, Oksana reiterates that it's their job to ensure this. Suddenly, the ship alerts them to multiple ships incoming and that their comms are being jammed. We get a nice shot of Drummer's 3 ships floating together, and then in the distance we see drive cones light up, most likely Marco's fleet engaging in a flip and burn. Drummer calls out that there is a Martian light cruiser and 2 frigates. Michio thinks they've been ambushed. Bear in mind at this point the crew doesn't know that Marco has Martian ships. Serge points out that there is 3 belter ships too. Berthold informs his captain that there is a tight beam connection request. That the message is sent to Drummer's terminal, where she receives an email entitled "The Free Navy welcomes you," and that they are being asked to dock. Now they know it is Marco, and Serge asks how Marco could get hold of Martian ships. A solid question, my buddy. And as Berthold points out, they aren't going to be able to shoot their way out of this one. We cut to the Peller airlock doors opening up on Carol and 2 guards. She welcomes them to the Peller. She asks for Drummer's weapon and says her temper precedes her. Fair enough, to be honest, fair enough. If she refuses, Carol says she can go back to their little ships as their enemy. Drummer concedes and hands over her pistol as they are escorted to the bridge. Drummer, Oksana and Joseph discuss the Free Navy crew, that they see Black Sky and Golden Bow members. Drummer points out that they are tributes, come in exchange for Inaros on their ships as a way for Marco to consolidate support and loyalty amongst the factions. Oksana indicates that if Golden Bow and Black Sky are with him, then Marco will rally half the OPA to his banner at least. And I feel like that wording is a nice little nod to Game of Thrones, you know, rally to his banner. And this only angers Kamina further. On the bridge, Marco is awaiting them with his cocky smile. He welcomes Drummer and her crew and thanks them for coming. Then we get a nice little back and forth between Kamina and Marco. Drummer asks where his throne is, to which Marco replies that they are in the war room. Drummer says the war you started, and Marco says he won it. And Kamina finishes him off with some great sarcasm and accuracy and asks, is the war over? Because she has no knowledge of the inner surrender. Marco, high above looking down on her, a position he clearly loves, smiles at her and acts appreciative of her questioning and attitude. He says he knew he liked her. He knew there was a reason he liked her, and she immediately brings up her losses. Do you know who I liked? She asks. He throws it back at her with a lack of empathy, revealing he knows she came here in Ashford's ship. Drummer takes the opportunity to undermine Marco's deeds. She tells him Ashford sang his song not out of fear but out of love for his daughter and to keep his mind steady. She drops the sarcasm and flat out calls Marco a murderer for killing Fred and Ashford. Marco retorts that they fought and lost and died because they betrayed the Belters and served the Inners, but Drummer would not, implying as to why he wanted to team up with her. Believing she can put aside her emotions for the greater good of the Belt, and yet she tells him she is starting to regret the decision, but we know she already does. There is a pause of tension, and Oksana cuts through it and tells Marco they are here to discuss the future, not the past. Joseph rightly asks about the food supply, since Earth is the only real source of for live soil and complex biologicals. I love that term, complex biologicals, a right mouthful. That is a great question, as Marco states himself. He finally comes down to their level and says that Earth has always used agriculture to control the Belt, which is true. He sends them facts and figures from his terminal to theirs and claims that they came from Nico Sandrani. That certainly made my ears prick, as Nico is an important Free Navy character from the books. I don't know if he'll come into the show by the end of the season or next, or, you know, not at all. Maybe they just threw the name out for book readers to go, hey, Nico. But either way, it's cool to hear. Hey, Nico. As Marco states, Nico works on the ag domes, the agriculture domes on Ganymede, which I'm sure you all remember from Season 2, as being the only real place to grow food and harvest in space other than Earth. In case you didn't know how important Ganymede actually is, it is the centre of human expansion out into the outer planets. As it is in the books, the first years of Free Navy control will see a thin supply of food, but within a decade they will surpass even Earth's production levels. He officially invites Drummer to join the Free Navy and combine her strength and reputation with Marco's, or leave in peace and without the Free Navy's protection. Drummer retorts that it is only because of Marco that they need protection. Marco has essentially spoken for the whole Belt, and now they have no real choice but to join him. He tells them to speak amongst themselves and come to a quick decision. As Drummer leaves, Philip walks past her, and Drummer stops and takes a good look at him, seemingly knowing or assuming he is Naomi's son, or just maybe she thinks, oh, I recognise that guy. So this was my third favourite scene. We've been waiting to see Drummer and Marco in a room together for a little while now, and it did not disappoint in my eyes. While Drummer gives it her all to let him know how much distaste she has for the man, Marco truly has got her up against the wall with only one real way out. Back on Earth, Amos and Peaches reach the fenced-off area they were warned about. They find fresh blood on the snow, indicating the guy ain't messing around. When they get near the entrance, Peaches' leg starts cramping again, so Amos tells her to run if anything goes wrong. He shouts out to see if anybody is home, hello, and then climbs the fence when there is no answer. Immediately the lights turn on and out steps a guy with a hefty looking shotgun. He probably just waited, he heard him and waited for him to actually trespass so he can use the excuse that he's trespassing to shoot him. He claims he has a son too, and we can see a figure with a rifle in the window, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. That's a mannequin or something. I mean, the fucking barrel's frozen it for one. Like, that's got to be a dead giveaway. Anyway, Amos says he comes in peace and just wants to talk trade, claiming he has a water recycler hidden down the road. Yeah, fucking, that's believable, isn't it? The guy says, strip down so I can see you're unarmed and we'll talk. Amos reluctantly does so, and then we get the money shot. Look at that body. Amos is like, come on, dude, a recycler is worth more than an extra rifle. He just wants to hunt on his way north. And the guy's like, yeah, well, I can just go get the recycler myself, and takes aim at Amos, who goes full Wolverine and gets ready to take on the blast. He's like, oh, fucking come on then. And then we get a very stylized bit where Peaches comes out from nowhere, seemingly, and just straight up fucking mauls this dude. Like, the camera is shaking about everywhere, like the end of Lost Highway, and Peaches knocks the gun away, batters him, then grabs the gun and blows him away all over Amos. The mod's ability ends, and she collapses to the floor. Amos carries her inside and lays her down, and he sees the mannequin. I fucking called it. Sees the mannequin in the window, but more importantly, not one, but 2 dirt bikes. Holy shit. He doesn't have time to look around before Peaches starts convulsing and throws up and then passes out. And she's so still that Amos has to check her pulse and exhale a sigh of relief when he realises she's still alive. He wraps her up in blankets and takes care of her. Ah, so lovely. I would love to pretend to be ill with Amos to see if he'd look after me. She starts mouthing in her sleep again, but this time Amos leans in close to hear what she is saying, and we still can't fully hear her. All we really hear is monsters, not afraid. Back on their ship, Drummer and her crew discuss their options. Micho says that if the offer to leave is real, they should take it. But Serge rightly points out that there is nowhere to go, that Earthers won't care whose side they fight on. Joseph points out that staying with Marco is the safest option, and despite Michio calling Marco a mass murderer, and Drummer saying he can't be trusted, Serge says having a mass murderer watching their backs against the inevitable retaliation of Earth sounds pretty good, which is a good point in all fairness. Michio says that'll make them just as bad as he is. This is the most tense and argumentative we've seen Drummer's crew so far, so, you know, it's a big deal. And then Berthold, the young voice of reason, cuts in and sways all of them. While they are all acting like Marco gave them a choice to ponder upon, the reality is they have no choice. Earth will go to war with the Belt once they have regained their strength, and their only chance is to stand together in unity with Marco. It may be Marco's war and not theirs, but Marco will accomplish what every leader of the Belt, from Anderson Dawes to Fred Johnson and all those before them, have promised and failed to do. Unite all the factions of the Belt into one superpower to match the Inners. If they do not join, they will die. Powerful, powerful words from young Berthold, who has clearly persuaded them all as we cut to the Peller's airlock opening up on Marco. Drummer farewells Serge as he and Carol swap crews, and the attribute, as Drummer called it earlier, which as Marco points out ensures loyalty to each other and promotes unity throughout the Free Navy. Drummer points out that Serge isn't crew, he is family, which confirms to me that maybe that they are married, as I said in the Ketubah. So Marco says, let me introduce you to mine. He calls Philip out and introduces Kamina as a patriot and a good friend of Naomi's, and that they were together on the Behemoth before Naomi left to join her Inners. Honestly, Marco is just one of those characters who just can't stop being a fucking dick. Can't stop being a fucking dick. And he just loves to undermine and insult Naomi, especially in order to manipulate his own son. I'm not sure he planned on Drummer beefing her up, saying in doing so saved every soul in the system, but Philip's eyes light up at that, since I've no doubt he has no real idea how big a hero his mother and the crew of the Rocinante really are. Marco, keeping his anger hidden, shuts it down and takes a rain check on that conversation. He tells Drummer to let Naomi know that if she sees Naomi, let her know that her son has become a fine young man. And when she asks Philip if he wants her to tell his mother anything, he almost gives the game away. I suspect Marco is trying to nip the Naomi thing in the bud You know, knowing she and Drummer are besties and that Drummer ain't going to stand that kind of behaviour if she finds out. Inspired by Drummer's words, Philip takes his mother a drink and sits in her cell with her, and I'm looking at the cell and once again find myself wondering why I don't really like it, like the art direction, why, and I figured it out, like where's the fucking crash couch, man? What's the point of having prison cells if you're just gonna, you know, let the prisoner get squashed in hygiene maneuvers? Like every room on a ship, especially a Martian warship, should have crash couches, you know, it makes more sense to have a crash couch in the cell than a fucking bed, you know. No wonder Salvatore managed to let this ship go. I mean, why would he want a caravan and no fucking wheels? Ugh. Maybe it comes out of the wall, I don't know. Let's just say it does, I guess. Anyway, Philip tells his mother to tell him about the behemoth, and she starts to when we see that Marco is watching them on camera, rage starting to bubble. He didn't actually want Philip to connect with his mother, I believe, and especially not fill his head with possibilities and potential for inner belter allegiance. He mutes them and starts forming a plan that involves the Rocinante. We see on his 3D screen his fleet, the names of which I'll go into in a second, and we see him send the Chetzamoka onto the flight path of the Rossi, or at least see how fast it would get there, at least, you know, an estimation, and the Rocinante, of course, on its way to intercept the Zemaya. We get some ominous building music to indicate that he is setting a trap for the Rossi, or at least, again, as I said, planning to set a trap. A ship he wants destroyed either for personal reasons, aka jealousy of Holden, or because the Rossi is famous for saving the day. You know, it is a threat and he wants to nip that in the bud. As I said, we can see the ship names of Marco's fleet, and book readers can rejoice at the accuracy. Let's see. We've obviously got the Pella. We've got the Koto and the Shinzakuto, who book readers will definitely recognise as the Three Wolves from a certain Book 6 battle. We've got the Serio Mal and the Panshin, two ships that were part of Michio Par's fleet. If you didn't know, Michio Par is a wife of Drummer in the show, but Drummer, she was Drummer in the books, basically, in terms of her role. Her role was amalgamated with Drummer's in the show. She was on the Behemoth, left Fred's cabinet and joined the Free Navy, and was captain on the Connaught, another ship we can see on the board. Along with the Panshin and Serio Mal, as well as the Solano, but that name isn't on there, they were known as the Four Horsemen. So we've got the Four Horsemen and the Three Wolves. There are more ships to come, no doubt, I imagine, but that is already a pretty dangerous fleet right there. Beware the Free Navy, man. And then we end the episode with my personal favourite scene. At the shack, Peaches wakes up to Amos stoking the fire and asks, did we win? Amos shows her the good news, that they have weapons, food and transportation. He gives her a drink and sits with her. Amos says she moved fast, and she says that's what the mods do, useful in the moment but sucky afterwards. Amos points out the poor design, and she says that she didn't think about the consequences when she got them. Her hand still hurts, so Amos washes it and fixes her up with a magical cast, which we all know would be awesome in real life, if not yet invented. He tells her he won't let anything hurt her, that he heard her talking about monsters in her sleep, and this is why it's my favourite scene, because she opens up to him about her words of power, and we see how it affects him. While in a creative writing class in prison, she created a small poem to comfort herself and took it on as a kind of private prayer. I have killed, but I am not a killer, because killers are monsters and monsters aren't afraid. She says it aloud to Amos, who kind of looks away, and, you know, that's because he's thinking, shit, by that logic, that makes me a monster. You know, Amos ain't afraid of nothing. Not a goddamn thing. In the books, when trying to escape the pit, he thinks to himself, like, am I afraid right now? I wonder if I'm afraid right now, because he doesn't even remember what it feels like to be scared. Clarissa confesses that she's afraid all the time, scared of her own actions and how right it felt to go through with them. She asks Amos why they came here when the guy could have killed him. And he says, yeah, sure, but you weren't going to make it on the road without food, supplies and rest, and that this place had them all. Peaches asks if it bothers him, which he declines, saying it was worth the risk, but he didn't understand her. She meant, if the guy wasn't a fucker, would they have acted differently? Amos is indifferent about it, you know, as far as he is concerned, they needed supplies, and this is where the supplies were. So Peaches breaks it down into simple terms for him to understand that they went out of their way to kill a man and steal his stuff just because they needed it. And that's not the kind of thing that good people do, not even bad people trying to live like good ones. This gets through to Amos, who agrees and says Holden would never have approved this behaviour. And the episode ends with Amos saying he needs to get back to his crew. So yeah, this was definitely my favourite scene of the episode. Not only did Peaches explain her words of power to Amos, but to see what effect it had on him was not something I'd ever actually thought about, you know. when she says it, he clearly reacts to it, but it's not until she breaks down his actions that we see him come to an understanding about himself. He realises he is the tribal savage he described the uncivilized as earlier. He comes to realise, or at least remember, that the reason he follows Holden is because he knows Holden is a good man trying to do the right thing, and associating with him and Alex and Naomi helps him be a good person, and without them he reverts back to the old Amos. He went to visit Clarissa in the first place because of a subconscious effort to do for her what Lydia did for him, paying forward the chance to live a good life, or at least, you know, show her that someone cares for her. We got a lot of nice deep topics to think about this episode. The last couple episodes, to be fair, but the Amos Peaches scene give us a lot of nice deep topics to think about. And again, this scene showed off the writer's exceptional adaptation skills. You know, similar enough to be an adaptation, while different enough to be its own thing. I was expecting the whole talking trade scene, but in the books it cuts the next morning when they leave on their bikes, whereas the show lets us see them rest, talk about what they've done, learn from each other, add further characterization to already well-interesting characters, and have meaningful conversations that don't even have straight-up answers, but instead provoke thought. I fucking love The Expanse, man.